Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. You've reached the ENCO Systems and Streamguys webinar, and we appreciate you coming by to check it out. We're kind of excited today. We are working with our partners, the Streamguys, and been putting in a lot of time and effort in preparing this webinar for you so that you can get a better idea of how ENCO DAD's platform and the Streamguys products can work together to help enable further productivity for your workflows and to extend and give you more capabilities with your applications that you're using now. So we've got a lot of neat information lined up from the Streamguys and from ENCO. So without further ado, I'm Bill Bennett. I'm going to be your moderator, which means I'm going to go invisible in a minute, but I will help kind of moderate our Q&A coming up. A couple of notes. This webinar will be recorded. So we may use part of it or all of it or your questions later on our various websites and social media. And also we're using the Zoom application, right? And so most of you have probably used it before, but notice that you can grab the little corners and handles of it and move the windows around and make things bigger and smaller to help kind of maximize the size that fits your screen. So, feel free to drag that around a bit. This should last about 30 minutes. Give or take on the Q&A. So depends on how long that goes. As long as you've got questions, we will hopefully have answers for you. And that's about it there. Today we are joined from ENCO by Aaron Johnson. Hello, Aaron. From Portland, Oregon, he is. And then Ralph and Robert are both from the Streamguys. And so, hello, Ralph. Hello,
Afternoon.
Robert.
Afternoon.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
You guys are out on the West Coast. So if
Yeah.
we start shaking back and forth, we know that's an early warning sign for an earthquake.
Exactly. Yeah.
Our eyes open for that. This is kind of a quick overview of what we'll be talking about today. And one more thing before we dive in. Absolutely, your questions are important to us. You'll see that there's two buttons on the Zoom interface. One's called Q&A and one's called Chat. Please submit your questions via the Q&A button, because that allows us to all see your questions and puts them into a queue so that we can access and read them in the order received. The chat, if you put them in the chat, we may not quite catch them in the proper order. So there you go, all these little housekeeping things, right? So today we're going to talk again about ENCO and the Streamguys and a little bit about how we interface back and forth. And then we're going to hand it over to the Streamguys folks to really drill into their SGCast product. They're going to talk about a real world scenario, kind of a problem that then their solution came from the SG Recast audio logger. And then you'll see an example of some of the output files or results that creates. And then towards that, kind of at that point, we'll be really ready to answer your questions and look forward to that. So without further ado, I'm going to sign off and I'm going to hand it off to my colleague in Portland, Oregon. Hello, Aaron.
Hi there, Bill. Thanks a lot. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a background about ENCO and then specifically, our topic today. So I know most of you are familiar with us, but ENCO has been in the audio and video playout and automation business for over 25 years. We offer a broad range of audio and video playout solutions like DAD, our radio automation, Clipfire, our video automation, and as well as other television-centric products like Hotshot and DAD TV. Our mission is to provide you with the tools you need and provide you with world-class 24-hour support. Our webinar today will talk about how ENCO and Streamguys can provide a fuller and rich experience for our streaming and podcasts. Using the applications that most of you already have within your ENCO system, like Patapult, which is included in our on-air license, it can be used to send metadata to your streaming provider. Many of you I know use Patapult for things like RDS and getting what's playing now information to your website. But you can send other data like the beginning and the end of underwriting and ad breaks for your streaming or podcasts. And in most cases, you will not need to manually record and send audio to your podcast platform. This will be done on the cloud through Streamguys. With our partnership with Streamguys, we can utilize the power of both to shorten your workload. With that, I send it over to Ralph with more details. Thanks, everyone.
Hi, thanks, Aaron. Appreciate the introduction. It's great to be speaking with all of you today. The Streamguys team and myself are excited to be part of this webinar and show you the valuable product two passionate and dedicated teams can create together. Streamguys has been in business for more than 20 years, serving big and small broadcasters. Our goal is to help our customers with delivering the best-in-class streaming solution while implementing new streams of revenue. In doing so, our clients can focus on what they do best, that is, creating great content. Add to that our US-based 24/7, 365 customer support capabilities, and you have the foundation for an enterprise class experience. As you'll see in the next slides, the integration of ENCO DAD with our flagship platform, SG Recast, will help you save time, money, and expand your monetization opportunities. Okay, so here's what we'll be covering today. First, like I was saying, we'll give you a quick overview of SG Recast. Then we'll dig into customers' use case and the problem we solve for them. Next, we'll present you with the solution the Streamguys team was able to offer with SG Recast Audio Logger and what was that outcome. SG Recast is our flagship software as a service product for podcast publishing, monetization, and content repurposing. SG Recast allows multiple users to manage podcasts, automate podcast creation from live streams, tag ad breaks for monetization, and schedule broadcasts. And using SG Recast audio loggers, you can pull air checks from a live stream. In addition, you can convert audio files into audiograms, publish audio and video to social media, and transcribe audio all within SG Recast. Its scheduled broadcasts enable sports broadcasters to substitute podcast episodes, another stream, or a looped message into blacked out time slots. And it lets you create 24/7 pseudo live streaming for daily shows that aren't actually 24/7. Finally, SG Recast has a full API, allowing you to integrate it into other software. What we have here is an actual client use case. The customer came to Streamguys because they were looking for a simple and automatic way to turn their live content into monetized on-demand content. These are multi-hour radio shows with a regular radio clock and a good internet audience for on-demand listening. They already had good show metadata coming out of their ENCO DAD playout system. For this specific use case, the Streamguys team knew the SG Recast audio logger was the perfect solution. SG Recast streamlined the audio recording and monetization process for this client by turning live programming, the DAD library segments, into podcast episodes. For audio producers that have metadata for ad breaks and show titles with their existing stream, the solution for ad replacement and auto publishing can be used immediately. More generally speaking, the SG Recast audio logger auto publishing will automatically record and tag for ad insertion and publishing. Mid-roll ads are dynamically inserted in both the live stream and the podcast version. The audio logger auto publishing workflow will not only record the live stream as a podcast episode, but will also mark the mid-rolls in the podcast version. The archived copy now becomes a podcast episode that can be remonetized where the ad was initially marked. The underlying radio ads are automatically removed in case a low fill rate causes no dynamic ads to insert. Since dynamic ads are inserted at the time of listen or download, ads are relevant to the end user, even if the program is heard a year later. Thanks to DAD and Patapult's flexible metadata support, SG Recast is able to get a unique metadata queue for the start and end of each show, as well as for the ad breaks. Using metadata instead of timed recordings allows you to have a floating program guide or rearrange the program guide without adjusting your SG Recast settings. What you see here represents a 1 hour program originating from your ENCO DAD playout system, which could be hosted in the Streamguys cloud. SG Recast has been configured to automatically record the stream using the metadata being sent by the DAD. As you can see, the program has been segmented into 3 parts with 2 3-minute breaks. What you see on the screen here is the audio recording available in SG Recast once the content has been processed. As you can see, 2 ad markers are visible. The ad markers will be used to inject fresh new ads at each replay without having to lift a finger. So for our client, Streamguys integrated a solution to monetize their auto-published content with dynamic mid-rolls, saving them time, money, and increasing their productivity while adding a new source of revenue with ease. Simply put, thanks to our solution, they doubled their programmatic revenue from just live streams alone to both live and podcast. They're a happy customer, and so are we. Okay, thanks, Aaron. Back to you.
Thanks, Ralph. Also, I wanted to note, like Ralph said, a system can be in a regular studio, but also be in the cloud. So we have several different stations running their main system within the Streamguys cloud infrastructure, be it a live radio broadcast or a completely automated station. And mostly you're going to find it in the Streamguys cloud. Normally it would be at least mostly automated or voice tracked, but you can utilize the Streamguys really fully in your workflow. So things like, I know for public stations, if you need to do things like skimming, where you want to record when the mics go on, you'll be able to do that just by sending a piece of metadata to mark that position, within the logging in Streamguys. One of the latest products also we've released that we've been working with Streamguys is DAD-DR. DAD-DR is our disaster recovery and backup system that completely runs in the cloud. So when you need it, you'll have a backup of all of your data, and when there's an off-air emergency, you'll be able to play that out directly from the cloud. I want to thank you all for taking part, and next we wanted to answer any of your questions. Take it away, Bill.
Hey. Thanks, Aaron. Nice, thorough presentation, Ralph. Definitely very, very cool. It's amazing what you can do with software these days. I think some question that might kind of be interesting to answer is the integration process. I mean, as far as what would a customer who's using DAD experience when kind of integrating the Streamguys product within their system from a technological standpoint? What's that like? If you could kind of touch on that.
I mean, so on our side, mainly most of what we're going to the integration part is going to be through Patapult. There also could be integration far as if there was needed to be some specific files. This is especially true for DAD-DR. Also the use of gateway. So there would be a gateway rule that would send that data to the Streamguys cloud system. And just to kind of illustrate or talk about what that would look like, when you log into your cloud version of DAD, it really looks almost exactly like a regular version of DAD that you would find in a regular system. So when you remote desktop in, in one way or another. You'll see the same Windows environment with the same kind of DAD interface. But there's also within the DAD DR system, there's also a web interface also that's runs within a Chrome browser that gives you all of the access to the playlists, the access to the library, and access to our on-air player presenter. So it really gives you a full experience. You can even do things like editing, uploading, downloading audio from your system in the cloud. So, you know, no matter if you do it automatedly or wanted to add something manually, you'll have that ability, you know, the ability to do that.
Cool. Sounds flexible, definitely.
Yeah.
Rob's got a question that does SG Recast manage the RSS feeds in the case where you are automatically cutting, whoops, and it just disappeared? Oh, I think Rob was answering that. So Rob, jump right in and
Robert got robbed, that's for sure. Yes, so I answered that question already, but I'll answer it vocally as well. SG Recast does manage RSS feeds for podcasting in general, and the SG Recast audio logger workflow, where you're auto-publishing content, can have those automatically published files get put into any of your desired RSS feeds automatically. So say you have a show with two different podcasts that you need to go to, one for the show itself and one that's maybe an aggregate for your whole network, then it can do that. And every time the show gets published, it'll appear in everywhere that you need it to, with said monetization and everything to go with that. But yes,
okay.
StreamCast can manage RSS feeds.
Okay, cool. I know Streamguys has been around for a long time. You guys have been doing a lot of innovative things in streaming. I mean, how long have you guys been around again? What was the...
Since 2000.
Wow, 20 years. That's amazing. Yeah.
I think this month, actually, October, is the 21 year, if I'm not mistaken, anniversary. So yeah, getting up there.
That's very cool. And someone is asking, is ENCO DAD Cloud DR with a disaster recovery product for ENCO DAD? Is it hosted or where? He says Azure only, or Azure, right? Microsoft. Actually, it's really fairly agnostic. It just depends on the operating systems and what hosting providers have that. So we have it working actually in AWS right now, and I don't know if we have it running in Microsoft Azure or not, but as far as I know, it certainly can, because it's really just about virtualizing the operating system in the cloud. So you could even have your own hybrid cloud scenario where you've got your own data center in maybe some corporate environment that you're part of, or maybe it's at your transmitter. So we know a lot of larger station groups actually have their own DR sites at their transmitters instead of like some other third-party public internet cloud service. So there's a few ways to do that, as long as you can get this on an operating system, Windows running on a hypervisor, or even to steal if you have the budget for that in the cloud, then you can run DAD on that. So, but I digress.
And then, like, within Streamguys, also there's the ability, if you want to have a backup to your cloud system. So we have a client that has they have their system running on two separate hosting sites. So there's a backup to their cloud system if they happen to, and it's in two different regions, like one's on the West Coast and the other's on the East Coast. So there's that there too.
There's a lot of layers there. And by the way, I was specifically answering an ENCO DAD question, but can Streamguys run on different cloud service providers, or like hybrid cloud, private or public cloud? Or
Streamguys owns and operates our own infrastructure. So we sort of are the cloud. We wouldn't necessarily put our services on other hosting infra if we could help it.
Yeah, I would think that gives you a lot more control when you have your hands on that whole ecosystem there. So cool. So Milford has a question. Can we think of some ways of how to monetize repurposing of content? Wow, and that's a lot of answers there. I suppose that the limit is creativity, right? You can't necessarily repurpose weather forecasts, but I would think there's a lot of interviews and. Well, anyway, you guys, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
what kind of examples do you have?
Yeah, the most common ways that people repurpose their content, at least for the goal of monetization is to take something like your morning drive show or whatever sort of multi-hour shows that you're producing on your station, and turning those into automatic archives that people who might not necessarily be able to listen to them live could listen to them on demand. And as soon as you go on demand, there's multiple opportunities for monetization. There's no reason not to sort of leverage that portion of your audience that might these days be larger than your live one, as it were sometimes. So, in terms of ways to monetize your repurposed content, I mean, it's really if your audience finds your content valuable and you have stuff that people want to listen to, whether that's live or on demand or time shifted, if you're doing that, which is the thing nowadays too, it's an opportunity to get some more money, which helps you keep your business live and helps you keep your content produced at a high enough level that your people want to listen to it. So, I mean, really the ways to do it is limited only by what you think you can do with your content. Can you turn them into podcasts? Can you turn them into linear side channels to do sort of personality streams that are 24/7? Can you
yeah, it's a long
trying
list.
to think of my brain explodes a little bit trying to think of all the different use cases. Yeah, the most common ones would be like on demand and making like a side channel that's live to a specific show.
And on demand that's constructed dynamically. I mean, there's no longer just second or third tier streaming or digital tier, over the air channels. There's limitless when you're on demand.
Mm-hmm.
So the other great thing, and it was touched on, is when you have your podcast and somebody listens to it a year later, they'll get different ads, not the ads that were placed by at the time. It's going to be specific, and appropriate for the time it's being listened to.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, like even seasonal things, like talking about warm weather or cold weather. I mean, even because I mentioned weather earlier, the forecast for the next few hours you can't repurpose, but you could still have broader themes about the seasons. Mm-hmm. Autumn and the fall colors and such, or stuff like that.
Yeah, and in that vein that you're talking about, when we're talking about this auto publishing workflow, and we're talking about the ability to strip out things like your ad breaks, you're not limited to just your ad breaks. If there's any sort of segments that you have that are targeted and have metadata getting pushed for them during your show, that can be targeted and removed or replaced as needed. So as Bill's talking about with weather, if you have a show that has weather segments in it that you're targeting with metadata and pushing that with your stream, but you don't want someone 6 months from now who's listening to that talk show hear old weather content, you can have that removed. You don't even have to replace it with ads. You can just have it get stripped automatically and keep it to just the actual show segments for your maybe it turns your 3 hours of broadcasted over the air stuff into only like 2 hours. As we know, stuff goes these days on radio, but that 2 hours will be much more valuable to your clients or to your audience. I have to separate myself from what I think of as clients and what you think of as your audience.
Yeah, right. Everyone serves someone else, right? So that audience they're serving. It's interesting because like in radio, I'm thinking of a couple of programs, a musical program and kind of a comedy do-it-yourself show that's been on for decades, both, and some of their talent have passed away, but yet they keep editing and repurposing this content. Yes, it's kind of a funnel, and some of it is becoming less useful, but some of it is, especially with music, is timeless. So that's repurposing really different channels or over the years too. So you can do a lot in the edit suite. Go ahead. Good.
I'm going to say, let's move into the question from Rob. In terms of explaining what Pseudolive means. Pseudolive is just to mean that it's a live stream that is produced using pre-recorded content. It isn't being produced in real time, as it were. So you don't have live mic feeds, for example, in a studio that are getting fed to your live stream. It's just either music that you're broadcasting separately, or you have a show you did last week that you canned and are now airing a week and a half later for 2 hours of your day. That's all pseudo live stuff that's not happening in real time, but is still being broadcast in some live format. So from our perspective, what SG Recast can do is take your archives, for example. Say you have a Monday through Friday show, 2 hours every morning, and you want that show to be available in a live format for people to listen to any time of the day. Say they want to tune in at 6 o'clock when they're driving home and they want to listen to that morning show in a live format. They can listen to, say, this morning's live show in a live format, listening to a pseudo live stream, a stream that's being broadcast on a loop from that original archive in the morning. And that's very common, I think, these days too, with a lot of sort of automated stations or stations that maybe are music heavy, don't have as much live DJ or live other contribution going on. Most of that will end up being actually pseudo live in terms of how that live stream is being produced. But
yeah, I even noticed that with nationally syndicated radio programs where they may originate on the East Coast, by the time that, there may be an hour or two delay before what seems live is actually live on the West Coast, depending on the fringes of the hours of the day. And a lot of it is exactly what aired, but then may slightly varied or updated or tweaked for the West Coast.
Yeah.
So, that's pseudo live, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, we live in the past, so sometimes we got to get what the East Coast got to enjoy first, right? So,
but you get the most recent stuff.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
and right. the shorter version too.
Yeah. Milford's got a question here regarding content, and that's a good one here. I'm no expert myself on licensing, but have you guys music licensing specifically? And I suppose that relates to repurposing. That's. Certainly we know that the DAD playout systems have continuous log files for as run from so it knows what music you've been playing. But when you rebroadcast that, how is there a dynamic there to keep in mind?
Yeah, I think most people just completely avoid having sort of podcasts with unlicensed music or music they have to do royalty reporting for. It's a much more difficult prospect to take, say, your 2-hour live show and turn that into a single archive file and have however many people listen to it and know you had 3 different songs in that you, when you broadcast it live, were getting accounted for. But if you have sort of music beds or spots like that you're targeting with metadata as well, as long as our system can see, hey, this is just pure music and you don't want that in your podcast, again, like I was talking about earlier with the weather content, that can get stripped out. And you can keep your output archive to just the talk, as it were, or any of the sort of interstitial stuff that is still mostly talk or you don't have to worry about for things like Sound Exchange or any of the other digital rights platforms. So from my perspective, the easiest thing is just to avoid it. But I'm sure someone will find you liable for music you stream via OD if you have it. So
yeah, it's something to be watchful of, right? Copyright ownership is a thing. Yeah, very interesting. Cool.
Well, I know also just about on the radio kind of side of things, and this is more of live content or stream content. They'll have like DAD, for example, especially this is like a big one is sports. They won't have the right to play their sports content online, streamed, but with our DAD system, there are multiple playouts applications within DAD, so you can have, like during a sporting event, have some sort of backup programming or music or what have you during those things that you don't have licensed for, online.
Yeah, it just kind of automatically inserts it. The beauty of metadata, the more you tag your content, right, the more intelligent you can get with that repurposing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
it's not just pad metadata anymore. Now it's control metadata too a lot of the time. So
right, time of day and rights management and what distribution channels you can play it out, right? Is some channels might, I'm kind of going off the hip here, but some play out opportunities can have certain parts of content or certain types of content that others cannot, even from the same origination source. Depending, maybe there's over-the-air rights restrictions versus streaming restrictions.
Yep,
something like that. Cool. Now I'm looking at the clock. It's 3:20. East Coast 3:29. So if anyone has any other additional questions, please toss them out there now. We don't want you to take up too much more of your time here, but we definitely want to answer any more that you've got coming down the pike. So let's see. At this point, it looks like we've got all of them answered. And by the way, I should say, Robert and Ralph and Aaron, do you guys have any questions or yourselves for each other or for the audience out there that you might want to ask?
Nothing I can think of at this moment. Just to reiterate though, Streamguys allows for really to make your workflow much easier. Instead of having to, like in the old days where people would record different programs for a podcast and then create a file that's for the broadcast and then stick a commercial, maybe something that they created or something like that. Well, with the technology we have available now really allows you to do so much more, much easier. And then even like storage space, if you have a lot of different podcasts, and wanting to produce them locally or strip them out locally, all that takes man hours and space. So.
Indeed. Okay. So Kinsey is driving but can't type the question. So not sure how we can get the question then. So I'm afraid we can't really we don't know your question, Kinsey. Sorry, but don't type. If you're driving, don't type.
Well, just feel free to reach out to us, at the number you see on the screen right now.
And if they're driving, they probably can't see either. So emails are, and Kinsey, keep this in mind. Aaron is at enco.com. So that's AARON. Oh, okay. You've parked. There we go. This is exciting. So you've parked, and the question is, who is usually adding the metadata? So, and I think, okay,
that would be normally that would be on our side. So, well, I mean, so within Patapult, at the beginning of a break, let's say it's a talk show, one of the ways you could do it, there would be a GPIO interface, and we would send out a GPO with a specific piece of metadata for the beginning of an ad break or the end of an ad break, or like we're talking about before, maybe the beginning of weather. We can really, you can customize it to your needs. So, I mean, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and of course, there's a lot of original metadata when you put in content into the system originally, right?
Right. And so, if it's a music, most of the time, there's going to be metadata, and then we'll import that automatically on ingest. So, or if it's, there can be other metadata that's added from the original content creators, be it, another station on your network, or, really whatever. It can come from a lot of different places, and we have the ability to ingest it, and 99% of the time it can be automated. So you're not actively going to have to add each piece of metadata for title, artist, or other kind of logging that you would need.
And automation is key, as the Streamguys software is so robustly built upon automation, as is DAD. The interchange between the two becomes more seamless. And by the way, I was reading, in case someone else is driving, I mentioned Aaron's email, but also Ralph's email is RDALLONS, Ref Dallins or our Dallins at streamguys.com. So, and then Kinsey has a follow-up. Is anyone using successfully metadata to take content from broadcast that doesn't air in the same time every day and adding it to web stories and adding dynamic ads? That's a great question. And how automated is that?
Yes. I guess in my mind, I would say that that's the use case we brought up earlier in the presentation. But in terms of sort of floating windows of shows, for the most part, I think it isn't very often that the shows themselves are at different true times. We've had, I think the client that works on it currently has had one show or two shows that swapped time slots, but publishing didn't have to be modified at all to have that automatically work after they did that schedule change in their clocks. But aside from that, it is a fully automated process as long as your metadata is good enough to be able to maintain that targeting and that processing that we could do on our side, at least. Yeah, as long as you got control metadata for start and stop, and you've got any of the interstitial metadata you want for stuff to get omitted or replaced with ads, it is automated from our side. So I think on the ENCO side, that boils down to just making sure that all the cuts in your library, for example, have their metadata set up at time of ingest, and that you don't have to worry too much after the fact. But I know there are some people that have extensive libraries of potentially not well kept metadata, and that could be a concern. But if you've got the metadata, you're probably good to go.
And that's a challenge, because as technology is always evolving, there are stations with, decades of content, and over time they've migrated libraries over, and upgraded. But a lot of these, newer libraries have more fields to be populated than they've ever had, which, the more info you tag to each piece of each asset, the more you can do with it later. Which may take time to get somebody to go back in and update the libraries.
Yeah, it looks like Kinsey's saying specifically they're thinking about 5-minute reporter stories to air at various times every morning and afternoon. We actually, in terms of conceptually what that is, it's basically the same thing, right? In terms of having metadata that we can target to start a recording and stop a recording, right? And make that available in some fashion. We have a couple clients that do that, actually, using not just our audio logger workflow, but also a separate metadata centric workflow that is only for the recording of maybe small length content that will replace itself automatically, because you need, say, the same weather segment to get updated automatically all the time, or whatever it might be. But the same thing can be true for, say, those news type segments that we're discussing. As long as every time you have that 5-minute segment get played, no matter what time of day it is, if it's got a identifiable piece of control metadata on it that says, hey, I'm this type of thing, we'll see it, start paying attention to it. Once it's done and you send another, hey, it's done type message, then that gets cut and pushed and sent either to a feed for you to scrape and publish to your website, or is just available. Our system is fully API capable. So if you wanted, for example, to have all this automated publishing going through, but you also wanted to have maybe your own separate web CMS paying attention to the SGRecast system and looking for new content as it publishes, then stuff will automatically appear. Your CMS could use our API to see that, just pull it in, make sure that it has the proper references to it, and sort of automate the creation of new articles for that if it needed to. And everything sort of, all the pieces are there, and sort of what it is that we can do and what you can do because of that is mostly down to your own creative gumption and ability to create some of the sort of scaffolding to do that
in time.
Because like with the news, basically on our side, it could be simple as you could have an intro bed, or that would just have simply, at the beginning of that bed, just have what we call a DCL, data command language command, that would have a piece of, send out the appropriate metadata for Streamguys, and you could do that for the end as well. So even if it was a unusual length, you could have a outro bed that at the end of that outro would be the end of the news broadcast marker. So there's definitely a lot of different ways of going about it.
Yeah, and Kinsey has a follow-up just talking about like an editor could add the metadata to the reporter stories. Absolutely, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So I'm sure there's a point where there's too much metadata, but it takes a while probably to get to that point. There's usually not enough with legacy content.
Within the DAD or ENCO side, there's like over, I don't know how many different, there's like about 120 different fields available now. So
yeah, it's huge.
It's huge, yeah.
Cool, great. Kinsey, thank you very much, and thanks for pulling over and parking with those questions. We appreciate it, as do your fellow drivers. Anybody else have any thoughts or comments or questions for anyone in the group? These are some really nice questions we've had here today.
No, we've gone pretty in depth.
That's cool. Well, and of course, again, for our attendees, thank you for visiting and noticing the again, on this last slide, the contact information for both ENCO and Streamguys. And those folks look forward to, addressing any more questions, maybe answering more detailed questions, product walkthrough, stuff like that, of course, pricing. So Aaron and Ralph and Robert, thank you for taking your time today too. It's been fun working with you on this.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
All right, cool. Well, take care, everybody. We will end today's webinar as soon as I find the off button on the menu that I keep closing them out here. There you go. Take care, everyone. Be well. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone have a good day.